Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we're in the main bay today, but we'll be headed outside shortly to go work on the truck. You guys might be wondering, well, what's left to work on the truck? You've replaced a bunch of parts, you replaced the bed, and you just even painted it. I'll have that video linked up above, but what we're going to be working on today is actually the Hydroboost setup. And this is actually, again, one of those upgrades, repairs that I didn't know existed. I had a buddy of mine that's got a Duramax say, hey, have you heard about that LML Hydroboost install? And it's a great upgrade for the older trucks. I was like, no, hadn't heard much about it, and apparently this is actually a pretty popular upgrade. So that 2011 was actually the new chassis, new frame, so it's kind of shockingly, that it works back on our frame. So we've got the old HD frame, and we also have the old body style. So it's kind of interesting that people found this and upgraded it. And what this upgrade is basically it gives you a better braking feel. So I don't think there's much difference, you're not changing anything, in regards to pads or rotors, brake lines, or brake fluid on the truck. You're just replacing the Hydroboost unit itself, and apparently that 2011 was a good year to go to. We'll include a part number down below for the 2011 Hydroboost setup, but basically it's a bolt-on setup. There might be one thing that you have to drill out. We'll show you that here in a second, but basically why people are doing this swap is because, A, it fits on the older chassis, the older frame, and B, it's supposed to give you a lot better brake feel. It's not, like I said, you're not changing any of the brake hardware, you're just changing the brake booster, Hydroboost in this case, and it's supposed to give you a better brake feel. So less sponginess, supposed to, feels like you're actually using your brakes. It gives you more confidence in your braking system on the truck. So, and my truck, we replaced all the brake pads and rotors a couple years ago. So they're not super old. They maybe have, 40,000 miles on them, something like that. So they are used, but it's not super used. It's not the original pads or anything on the truck. So they're not from 2005. So, but let's go ahead and show you the Hydroboost unit. This is a full replacement from GM. It's going to have a sticker on it. It's going to have a sticker of AABY. The older, the one that we removed from the truck, really I think it's only going to have two stickers, two letters on it instead of the four. And this install should be pretty simple. The majority of this install is actually going to be from the inside. So you got to take off 4 nuts. And that's basically because this bolts through the firewall. Take off 4 nuts. You disconnect the brake pedal because the brake pedal has a lever that connects into this connecting rod. And you take off that connection. There's an electrical thing we're going to have to unplug. And you take off these 4 bolts. And then on the very front of this, you guys will see 2 more nuts that we're going to have to remove. So we'll disconnect the Hydroboost that's on the truck. Take this off. There's 2 nuts. We take that off. Bolt on our assembly that's on the truck. We bolt this in. Put the 4 nuts in that go through the firewall and connect this rod. So really, there's only six pieces of hardware we have to swap, and then there's that rod that we have to connect. So 7 connections. And the one thing I wanted to give you guys a heads up about, but the thing that we might run into is people have complained that this rod right here is not the same size as the one that's on the existing truck. Some people have basically had to take a unibit and drill that out 1 size bigger. That's kind of what the consensus. I've seen some people do it. I've seen some people not do it. I've seen people on the Amazon reviews, because you could actually find this part number on Amazon and order it through there. And like I said, I couldn't even say it was 50-50. Some people had to do it. Some people didn't have to do it. I just don't know what year they were swapping, this 2011 OEM to, a particular year in the past. So maybe it was like the early Duramaxes, the LB7s, maybe they didn't work. Maybe the LLYs, which is we have, they don't work. Maybe the LBZ. Might just depend on the construction year of your truck and what equipment that you have. Like I said, I'm not sure we're going to have to do that, but what we'll do is we'll take the OEM Hydroboost out of the truck and we will compare the rod size on that whole connection. And if it's the same size, we're just going to send it. If it is a different size, we'll go ahead and drill that out. So, all right, guys, so this is going to be kind of hard to see, but if you guys see that hole, right in the middle of the camera screen, there's basically 4 of those holes. There's one here, there's one up above it. The other 2, well, there's the steering column. The other 2 have to be back behind this bracket maybe. So basically there's those 4 holes. Like I said, there's 2 of them right there. Is that a third one? Yeah, there's a third one right back behind this bracket. We'll take those 4 nuts out. We'll get that disconnected. And then on the brake pedal itself, you guys can see this electrical connection. That connects to that rod that we were telling you about. Oh, wow. I don't know if you guys can see that, but our Hydroboost is actually wet. Really weird. I had no idea. I mean, I've never had an issue with the truck stopping. It's always stopped without issue. But if you guys can see that, the rod and that whole assembly going into the firewall is wet. I don't know if that's grease. I don't know if it's brake fluid. Well, it wouldn't be brake fluid. Power steering fluid. Man, this actually might be turning into a repair that I didn't know we needed. So, all right, well, that's what's on the inside. Let's show you what's under the hood. So if you guys can see what we're pointing to with the flashlight, that's one nut. There's going to be one on the other side. And then there's these 2 hoses we're going to have to take off. Actually, 3, I guess. The one with the rubber hose, and then there's a connection there and a connection there. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a bucket and put all those power steering fluid fittings into that bucket. So, all right, guys, we got all of the bolts and everything undone under the hood. So you guys can see we do have the brake master cylinder pretty much disconnected. Those are 2 15mm bolts that pulled right out. This back fitting was a 16mm, and I believe this is either going to be an 18 or a 19. I ended up using my adjustable crusher wrench, and that popped right off. So we have everything disconnected up front here, and now we basically just have to get those 4 bolts and that electrical connection on that rod on the inside. All right, guys, you're gonna see that we got the rod disconnected from the brake pedal. We also got the little electronic piece, that part's disconnected. So the secret to getting this retaining clip is, you see this part in the middle here, where my finger is. You want to get a real skinny screwdriver up between underneath that pin and push up with it. So once you get that pushed up, you can actually push out like that, and that will get it disconnected from the rod as well as the brake pedal. So this was kind of a pain. It took me a few minutes, but like I said, real skinny screwdriver, flat-headed screwdriver, put it under this retaining clip, push that up, and this will get you your loose pedal. I don't know if you guys could see, but there is some liquid on this one from the factory. So I don't know if it was leaking. Like, I didn't have any puddles inside the interior of the truck or anything, but it was just kind of weird. I was up under the truck, looked under there, and you know, we saw that. So yeah, maybe it's just dirt, condensation. I don't know, but anyway. Like I was saying, that's the factory one. Here's the new one. If we're looking at it, you know, we're staring up above it. So the ones on this side, so the side closest to the center console, these ones sucked. These ones on the right were pretty easy to get to. The ones on the left here, there's a bracket that was actually covering this up. So I actually couldn't use any of my impacts or anything like that. I actually had to use the wrong size socket because I didn't have a 3/8 15mm deep. And if you guys actually had a 3/8 15mm deep, I would have been able to reach that. I ended up using Imperial size, I think it was 5/8, which isn't the exact size that we're supposed to use, but you know what, guys, it got it out, got it loose, and so we're good to go. So what we're gonna do now is measure the diameter of this hole and this hole, and if they're within the same spec, we should be good to go. Really don't want to be drilling on that new one, but yeah, if we have to, we will. So all right, guys, my caliper's kind of dying here, but we should be able to get a diameter. So let's measure this factory one. About halfway in. Looking at about 15 or 16 millimeters, so round up to 16. All right, we're zeroed out again. This is the new one. All right, so we're at 15.9. I think that one was 15.9 as well, so 16 and 16, so if we round up. So I'm not gonna do any drilling on this thing. All right, guys, we've completed the install from the engine bay. We got all 4 bolts from the inside tightened down. So you got this first hose on the driver's side, the second rubber hose on the driver's side, and you got the third hose facing toward the passenger side going that way. I do have these 2 nuts tightened down. I don't have any torque specs for any of this stuff, but when I took it apart, it wasn't very tight, so I just got it really good and tight. So that should be good enough. And yes, this whole setup's messy, but so we did get everything installed on the outside. And we also got everything installed under here. I did get that clip and everything put on the rod. You guys can kind of see that. It's that white wire right in the middle of the screen. We got that slid back onto the rod. We got the safety clip that basically pins that on. That's also put on there, and then also all 4 bolts on the firewall, kind of like we said. Everything's good under here, and you guys will actually see I do have the truck up on jack stands. So what you need to do is actually pour power steering fluid in it, turn the truck on, turn the wheels all the way to the left, all the way to the right. That way you make sure you get your power steering, everything working, and that will bleed the whole power steering system. So we will go get some fluid, fill this reservoir up. It should be pretty much full, but you know, I did lose some fluid when we disconnected these hoses up here. Alright guys, you saw us just add this royal purple easy, basically high performance power steering fluid. This happens to be left over from one of the Corvette projects, so I'll be honest, if I was just you, I would just use normal power steering fluid. I happen to have this royal purple stuff, and it works really well in the Corvette, so we've not had any issues here, and you know, we shouldn't have any issues with it in the truck. So we're basically done. We've got the install complete. We bled the power steering by basically rotating the tires, you know, full lock to lock, and everything has been bled through. I did hit the brakes with my hand, and they did seem to lock up, so I think we're good there. But do make sure you put some pressure into the system before you start driving. You do want to make sure you have brakes, because you know, you haven't really opened the system with the modification that we did today, but you know, you've been touching the brake pedal, you've been messing around with the master cylinder, you've been messing around with the Hydroboost. You know, it's all stuff that can contribute to having a real bad time if you don't check it. So just be careful, make sure you check your brakes before you go on a big test. So we'll do that, and we'll head out on the road. Alright guys, we've done a little bit of test driving around my neighborhood, and just making sure everything worked. I did some sudden stops, you know, slow down stop signs, and so far so good. No issues with power steering, no issues with the brakes, so everything's working. I don't think I'm gonna have to bleed the braking system. Kind of like I said, we didn't crack that system open, but you know, you always do want to check before you go throwing it into corners and whatnot, or trying to do emergency braking. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, I'm slowing down for some train tracks, and I will say this: I see why people like this upgrade. I can't really narrow down what it is. I don't know if it's the fact that it might be a newer design. You know, my truck's an 05. This box is out of a 2011, so it's 6 years newer design. Also, my truck is 17 years old, and this is a brand new, well, I don't know when this part was built, but you know, I doubt this part is 17 years old. If this is new old stock, it's only 10 years old, but it's never been installed. So I don't have a manufacturer date of how old this thing is. But I will say this, I really do like this upgrade. It's quieter. You know, when I press the brakes, you know, I'm not slamming on them, but I am pressing on them. It slows down the truck. It doesn't make a noise and then want to slow down, if that makes sense. Like, it's way more instantaneous. If you guys know what I mean. So I can see why the other YouTubers that I've watched with this install, why they like this brake, is it basically almost feels like it's a brand new truck. Now again, it's only the Hydroboost. We haven't touched the pads. We haven't touched the rotors. So I suppose if you put new pads and rotors on at the same time, or a similar time, you guys might even get like, I don't want to say a performance braking package, because obviously this is a 2500 HD. It weighs almost 7,000 pounds. I think it was 6,700 pounds last time I just weighed it. So, but yeah, you know, so we're just braking it. Man, it is way better. Alright guys, so that's pretty much going to be it for the Hydroboost swap on the Duramax. And like I said, you know, I had no issues with the test drive. Everything went fairly quickly. It's just the worst part of that whole swap is all the stuff under the dash. Trying to get those 4 bolts out, trying to get that clip off, trying to swap that rod over. All that stuff, annoying. Like I said, this is a pretty good swap, and I paid, I think it was sub $200 for the Hydroboost setup for the LML. And this was a GM part. It wasn't a cheap Chinese or whatever knockoff. So it wasn't an actual GM part. It came from GM, had GM stickers on it. So, you know, I would stick with GM parts for stuff like that. Other stuff you might be able to get away with, but for safety with braking and all that, I would stick with the OEM stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the power steering project. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more truck content, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. And if you guys want to help support the channel, check out all the links down below. I'll try to have links to the Hydroboost, the power steering fluid that we use, and some of the tools that we use, because I didn't really use any special tools. You know, I just used my Milwaukee tools, ratchets, and impacts and whatnot. So we'll drop those links down below. And also make sure you check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. We do have some new Duramax shirts and sweaters and all that stuff and stickers. I think we have stickers on there too. So go check that out. And thanks, guys. Have a great one.